So, why do you think it's so hard for translators to receive the recognition they deserve? Well, I would say first off, we translators are literally trained to be invisible, which is not the case in many other professions. So, we're the highest praise that we can ever receive is often, people heard the translation or read the translation and didn't even realize it was a translation. So, and that's like the highest praise for many of us, right? So we are literally trained to be invisible, and that sometimes carries over to other parts of our lives. We tend to fly beneath the radar. And then I would add to that most of us translators, in my experience, for having trained probably thousands of translators by now, most of us tend to be introverts. And so we are perhaps a little bit more bookish than most people. And I'll give you an example. When I used to go replace the senior English editor at a communications company, when I would walk in, they had about 50 or 60 employees at the time. And the translation department was the only place in the entire company that was dead silent. Everyone else is like talking, they're doing brainstorms, they're having meetings. The translators by and large, spend their days in front of their computer. Even if they're next to other translators, they're working alone, really, ultimately. And they literally called it le monastère, like the monastery or the convent. Kind of as a joke, but it really was the most quiet place in the company where people were more sort of, they kept to themselves. And so all of that sort of, if you don't toot your own horn, and if you tend to fly beneath the radar and kind of keep to yourself and be quiet, then you don't always get a lot of recognition. Whereas, people in marketing, for example, are well versed in techniques in terms of making, showcasing expertise, showcasing their successes and all that stuff. I would add to that maybe a third factor, which is a lack of business training. So there's certain things that translators, we often don't have. An MBA, for example, we don't know the basics of business, and whether you're a small translation agency or an individual, often we don't always implement best business practices, because sometimes it's like we think we're an exception, right? We think we're different than the other business people in the world, but we're not. And we often get this wrong. So we don't behave like business people. And part of being a business person is touting your successes, touting your milestones, all those kinds of things. And so, the way that I'm trying to make a positive impact in my own very small way in the world is finding ways to help translators recognize themselves and their own expertise and experience and all that. Like tomorrow, for example, I'm doing a workshop on create your own 5-star portfolio. And we have 40 translators signed up, and we're all going to be creating our portfolio in real time. And I'm giving lots of tips and tricks to take your existing expertise and to implement all of that. So that's what I'm doing to try to make the world a slightly better place. All right, next question. What measures do you take to protect your rights as a translator? Good question. I pretty much follow the standard practices. I don't think there's anything particular that I do to protect my rights, but maybe I can add a couple of little things here. So first of all, earlier in my career, I had bad clients from time to time, and that doesn't really happen to me anymore, or very, very, very rarely. Generally, when I get clients that I see are a problem, that they're not respecting my rights, that they're taking advantage of me, they're trying to get a free ride, or they're not acknowledging my work, or they're simply unpleasant to work with, I will sort of screen them out after a while, and I literally will, tell them I'm too busy. I don't have time to take this on. Thanks for thinking of me. Here's someone else you can get in touch with. And so I tend to get too busy fairly often. I'm more and more selective about my clients, and that's something you can do when you have 15 years of experience and way more work than you ever need, which is my life right now anyway. Okay, the other thing I would say is that I protect my rights by by striving to attract good clients who do respect me and who do offer good conditions. And I have such good clients at this point that they often write to me and say, hey, Joe, do you give us permission to add your name at the beginning of this international report that we're publishing? We'd really like to recognize you publicly, or do a LinkedIn post featuring featuring this whatever, this book chapter you translated or whatever. So it's like they're asking me if they can give me recognition, and that's really wonderful, and I'm very fortunate and very thankful. But I didn't get there by accident. Over time, I've traded up and gotten too busy for the bad clients, so I had time to market to the good clients and to take good care of them, so they'd come back to me and refer me to their peers. So it all starts with sort of defining what you want. If you want to work for the kinds of people who respect you and recognize you and will respect your rights, then you need to sort of become the kind of person that good clients want to work with. And there are a lot of different components to that. So I think that I very much work that way. I try to work by attraction rather than by doing a lot of pitching. And yeah, I'm selective with the people that I work with. This is the next question, have you ever experienced a situation where your rights as a translator were violated? For example, lack of recognition or credit? Okay, so I can't think of exactly that case. I can remember one time where I did a really hard translation for a client who barely spoke any English, and they were unsatisfied with the translation, and they kept asking for rewrites and more rewrites and more rewrites. And what I realized is that the rewrites were because they were changing their mind about the passage and they wanted to say something different. So these were content changes. And number two, they didn't understand English enough. So they didn't understand the target language enough to have an informed point of view on the English. And so they wanted kind of weird literal translations. And so eventually I had to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, if you need tweaks that are language related, I'm happy to do those. But what I'm seeing here is you're asking me to do rewrites because you're changing the content. And so I realized I had to create a policy with clients. And now I'm very clear when I start working with new clients that any tweaks, for example, whatever, could you please use more active voice in the text? Could you please use this glossary in your translation? I'm happy to implement those changes and any improvements for free. But if there are changes to the content of the source text, that costs extra. And I make sure that I'm very clear with new clients on that, because some clients will change their mind about the content or send you a new version of the text and try to get a free ride. And so I consider that a lack of respect and also a lack of recognition, because if they're not paying for the extra work, that's also a lack of recognition. I'm not sure that really answers your question, but that's just, one thing I've experienced, and I know I'm not alone with that. All right, final question. What are some tips and tricks you'd give emerging translators to help navigate the legal complexities of their profession? Well, number one, join your local association, because the laws and regulations vary according to which country you're in. So join your local association, take their ethics courses. Here in Canada, we have OTIAC, the Ordre des traducteurs, terminologues et interprètes agréés du Québec, and they have a two-day ethics course. And I think that's essential. And then I would add to that, perhaps, to better navigate the legal complexities, take every course you can that will better inform you on best practices, on the legal implications of your work, and on good business practice, because knowledge is power, and that's true in business in general. It's very true in negotiation. The more you know, the easier it is to navigate the legal complexities, and also the complexities of things like pricing and how to negotiate properly with clients. In terms of legal complexities, though, like the form of your business, that's a local thing. I've also, in several cases, I've hired an accountant to explain to me, the complexities of a corporation versus a sole proprietorship, an ENR business here in Quebec. So it's not exactly a legal complexity, but that does entail sort of some legal complexities there. So I'm not sure that exactly answers your question, but bottom line, I suggest joining your local association and getting knowledge, because knowledge really is power, and you'll not only be able to navigate legal complexities, but you'll be able to make better decisions and create better outcomes for you and your clients when you understand the legal implications of your actions and the services that you offer. All right, I hope this is helpful, and shoot me a quick note. Let me know. Have a great day.